And I can send you a transcript or I can send you the recording, whichever would be helpful. Okay. So give me a situation so I can tackle a particular concrete situation.
Well, last night it was 9 o'clock, and I was going to tell her that she had about 5 minutes to finish up what she was doing on the phone.
Okay.
And the first thing she did was yell at me, I know, you don't have to tell me.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, you know. And then she got angrier and started telling me that I was wrong and telling her, and she knows all this stuff, and why do I have to be so mean to her?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I think Stephanie came in, and then there was
When I came in, she was already throwing something.
she had her shoe, her
It
sandal,
was her sandal.
and she was holding it up like she was going to throw it at me. And I said, "Go ahead if you want to lose the phone." And she threw it at me.
Yeah.
And so,
So
And she's
first,
screaming at this point, and then he starts screaming, and
yep.
things got bad
Yep.
fast.
Yeah. 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 So when she raises her voice, you have to tell yourself that you're not going to talk very much at all. You will not respond to her. That's the biggest challenge, right? Now, what did she say to you first?
that I
You don't
didn't
have
need
to
to,
tell me.
yeah, you don't have to
Yeah.
tell me.
Okay. So that response, you can say nothing to that. Okay. Because why would you say nothing to that brain?
The brain can't hear you anyway.
The brain is offline with that. It's barely there. Our brain is barely there. If you imagine our brain and guard dog, when she has a guard dog statement like that, now it's not a real bad one, but here's the choice you make. If you can make it worse, I would talk to teachers all the time. There comes a point where you can make it worse, and you do.
Mhm.
Okay. You have to say to yourself, am I regulated right now? And if I'm not, you walk away from her. Okay. And she'll be probably interested in that because her owl brain's sort of on. Yeah. Right. Um, this is practice, Scott. No parent that I know has ever been able to do this very well without practicing because you're tired at the end of the day. You're 9 o'clock tired.
Mhm.
Okay.
Honestly, you had her most of the day yesterday. So the way I look at it is you were just done. Like
Yeah.
that's what happens with the person that has her for the most of the day.
Yep.
Sunday, I
Okay.
had her for all afternoon and most of the evening, and I was done.
Yep. So
Like,
that's a very good thing to communicate with each other is how done are you? And we did that a lot. Carol and I were just remarking about we used to have kind of a statement. You're it was our
mhm.
statement. You're it. Okay. Because Josh was overwhelming, not in the same way, but he was just nonstop talking, getting into sisters and buzzed. So plan on this happening, that she's going to give you something, and it may not be the phone, it may be whatever. So let's think about if you wanted to do it over, I would give you a couple things to do differently. One is you go to her and say, "Hey, what you up to?" You don't talk about giving up the phone. You don't talk about it's time to go to bed. You just connect with her. This is bottom up. This is going to get to her lower part of the brain. That's the regulating part of the brain. And it's regulation and connection to keep the owl brain on. Okay. Now you have to be in a pretty good place to do it because you're tired and you want to go to bed. Um, I mean, you could say, Stephanie, you're it here. And I would say, okay. But it would be the same thing, Stephanie. If you were the one to pick up, I'd go, how you doing? It doesn't take very long to do this.
Mhm.
5 minutes probably. You just sit with her. Don't say much, just watch. And you might go, well, that's kind of cool. And if she starts talking to you at all about that game, you are moving toward putting the guard dog away. Okay, you got an owl brain and you're connected. And you go, "Oh, now here's where I didn't do this very well. Was I go, yeah, I'm getting kind of tired, right? Are you getting kind of tired or not? Yeah. And she might say, nope.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you? And again, these are all questions. Love and Lodge taught me not to say statements to kids, only questions. Did you know what time it is? Just wondering. It's got to be a tone of voice that's not irritable already. Okay. You got to practice this. Fake it if you can't feel it. Okay. You have to go, did I'm getting pretty tired. So I mean, you could teach her, or you could give her kind of, sometimes they say, well, give kids warnings and stuff that it's time. But what you're trying to do is make a connection with her that says, I'm tired and I want to go to bed. And let her just kind of think about that. And she might say, well, I'm not, and say, well, and you kind of bounce around 9 o'clock, bedtime, and you don't say very much. You just let her think. Love and Logic is really about kids, getting kids to do most of the thinking. Does that feel different and you could play her right now, and I'll give you, if you think it's not going to work the way that I'm talking about, just play it
I
out.
mean, in general, I try to be not, it doesn't always work, but I try to de-escalate things when that happens,
Yep,
because it doesn't make any, she's not going to listen.
yep,
And if I get angry, it doesn't do any good.
yep.
But
What I'm saying is that you don't escalate at all.
yeah,
The
That's the key to this.
original, the original approach, we probably need to think about that more, about how to first approach that. Oh yeah, it's 9 o'clock. It's time to put the phone away.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I wasn't,
yeah.
last night, I wasn't going to demand, right now it's 9 o'clock, you need to put the phone down. I was
So
giving her a heads up, and I think you're right. She wasn't in that place where she wanted to hear that.
yeah,
So
No.
she immediately responded.
most adults know exactly what this feels like when you're involved with something. Stephanie, I think about your job where you get really focused. Because if you're not focused, you got a whole day load of, amoebas or whatever you're working on now have to be redone, right? And to have somebody come up and say, hey, you got to go to the office or you have a meeting or whatever. It's really, and then remember, her sensory integration is still weak. That means I'm looking at something, I'm doing something, and I'm struggling with listening to what you're saying and responding. So if you just imagine that, I call it the Lolo sign, you know, your blinking to speeding, it's how do you, she knows she has to go to bed. She knows she may not know the time. That's why I say ask her, like, but after you make a connection with her first. Now, if you're not a real regulator, you're not going to think about this very well, right? If you're tired, you're going to have, let's just get it done. And if you have that mentality, I can tell you many teachers had that mentality, and they were always surprised that a kid would blow up because the tone of voice that you have, you're telling them what they already know, right?
Mhm.
I love Love and Logic because it just shifted all of that commands or demands or statements to curiosity, curious question. Hey, man, or let's say she's right in the middle of something. You go, how are you going to do this, guy? This game looks like you're right in the middle of it. How are you going to be able to kind of quit and get ready for bed? It's a reasonable question, right? But you're not telling her to go to bed. You're just telling her to think about the process that she has to do. And that's, do I save this level? Do I mean, and I'm a big believer if you're going to give a kid a screen when you're bumping up against bedtime, that's the question is, what kind of game you going to play? What do you mean? Well, some games you can just quit and it's automatically saved. And some you have to start over. And that can be really, I assume, pretty frustrating. That's the kind of game you have going on. And then you get her, I don't think she's very good at time. So you're saying now, how much time do we have until, again, you're not giving it to her until she's worked through these kinds of thinking, like how long do I have? What game do I have? But to do that when it's 9 o'clock is way too late, right?
Mhm. And she'd already had the phone all evening,
Afternoon, yeah.
afternoon, evening.
So you're back to kind of
Broke away for like a
okay.
little bit for dinner, but
Yeah.
dinner she just jumped up and ran off and
Yeah.
was done.
So I'm going to pull you back and this is not the moment. I always said to myself, there's a moment that I could get better at, but there's a bigger moment I got to get better at in terms of um, access. I'll just give you an example. I knew that, some of my foster kids were so impulsive and they would get something and then they would have a hard time giving it up because they didn't have a sense of time or anything. And I knew that and I just said, well, let's figure it out. You got this much and how are you going to be able to stop yourself from using this? The reason I'm saying is if she has a phone too much on a given day, her brain is not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You've kind of given her too much candy and now
Mm-hmm.
she's sick. So I think you all have to go back to, we have to figure out a balance of how much time do you have? See, at the end of this book that I think every parent should read on stress response system by Perry, he talks about we should have screen-free zones, which would be at dinner time, obviously, and then limited amounts of time. You're expecting her to limit herself is not possible with her.
Mm-hmm.
She can't yet. So it's whatever she's got, that thing is shutting off in an hour. That's it. She has to bring it back to you to get it turned on again. That's the way I would run it. Most screens can turn off, if you set them. I mean, my phone can turn off when I go to sleep listening to somebody reading a story and stuff, or a YouTube or a song. I make it turn off itself. I mean, it's pretty easy. You both have iPhones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, can she reset it? I suspect she could, but I
We've got
go ahead.
parental controls on it that I don't know. I have to, now that I have access to it again, I have
Yeah.
to figure out, because that's the issue is it's supposed to go off after an hour. And for a lot of applications it does, she has to ask for more time.
But
Yeah.
that's
But
each application.
and it needs to be global, and I need to figure out how to do that.
I don't know that there's a way to do it globally. Otherwise, other than just everything goes off at a certain time,
So
which really should be the case for
Yeah.
like if we can make it go off by 9. 9 o'clock is the time that we've decided
Yeah.
and discussed, and
yeah.
she knows she's supposed to like it's a new rule, but not new. Like,
Yeah,
she
and
knows
she's
what
been,
it's supposed to be.
for most of the time since we started this a couple of weeks ago, she's been really good.
Yeah.
See, but the
It
problem
wasn't
is,
a good mental place yesterday because she'd
No.
had it all afternoon and evening.
I think everybody, I mean, if I was doing this, I think I would say we're going to have a no screen time as a family, and we're going to watch something together. We're going to read a book together. Um, Togetherness is what she needs. I mean, she doesn't need more screen time. I mean, I think there's like an hour before dinner or an hour after, and that's kind of it. So why is that important? Because she has to create stuff. Let's say she doesn't have a screen. What is she going to do? She's going to draw. Is she going to get a game and want to play with you, a card game or whatever? You're not giving her the opportunity to be creative and and the ability to imagine something that she's not done. And I would have a list of things that are non-screen stuff that you've had fun doing. Stick it on the fridge. She's gonna say, I'm bored, and say, yeah, man, I know. I can get bored too. What, do you need some help to kind of figure it out not to be bored? But if you're
Yep.
fighting over the screen, that's the wrong place to land.
Yeah, she came in. The first thing she did was flop on the floor tonight when we got home. And I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, "I'm bored. I
Yeah.
don't know what to do. You won't give me my phone." I said, "There's so many other things you could do. You have a whole room full of stuff. Let's get a book and let's read a book."
Okay, so I'm going to tell you how to respond to that. When you give her answers, that is going to be thrown in your face. It sounds like this. I know it's really hard to be bored. I hate it. Man, there's kind of, you're saying there's just nothing to do, right? Let her kind of whine for a while. I know that's the way. And she might say, well, the phone is like the only thing that makes me not bored. And you go, oh, I'm sure of that. Right? Can you hear me not argue?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm basically just leaving it for her to figure out. You could go, well, let me know. I could think of some things that I would enjoy doing with you. You see the difference between you? The word you shouldn't ever be used with a kid like this. Ever. You say, I mean, I'm sure that you've had some enjoyable times. I can tell you, if you do, please turn on the recorder or the video or videotape it, because I have kids that can't remember when they've had a good moment with their parents.
I can't remember when I've had a good moment.
Right. Well, I learned this, a kid that was a couch potato constantly. And the mom says, we just had this great bike ride. He loved it. He was laughing. He was all of that. And I realized that this kid, again, some praxis issues, didn't put a memory that was strong enough to go get. I said, make sure you get some videotape of it and then let him hear that, see that, and he'll go, well, that was fun. I think that would be fun to do. And she did that. And sure enough, the kid said, oh, let's go do that. But you have a kid that when you tell her what to do, and you haven't like this is kind of like, now that would be a good thing for a phone, is to have 2 or 3 or 4 YouTubes that have fun moments that you guys have had that you could play out on the screen. You can do a quick, AirPlay, whatever it is, and say, well, I got 3 or 4 things that we've done. If you want, you cannot take her pain away. The pain of boredom is not your job. But you can be a consultant parent. When you shift to drill sergeant or helicopter, she's going to fight you, and she should. She doesn't like helicopters, and she doesn't like drill sergeant.
Yeah, I told her last night I was gonna video her acting out so she could see what that looks like later because I don't think she realizes it.
I've
Yeah.
done that
But
a couple of times.
but I don't think that would have been helpful, so I
Yeah.
didn't do it. But
And just imagine if I said, why don't you videotape yourself when you lose it?
yeah,
Right.
no, I know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So the point is, um, if we can land on, and you can tell her this, I'm really learning how to um, let you solve your own kind of problems, and boredom would be a good example. Um, Anytime you try to tell her what to do, she gets mad at you. That's common. I see it here in the playroom,
Yeah. I don't
right?
like when people tell me what to do, so it's kind of funny
Right.
that
Hmm.
So, but what I'm going to ask you, what causes you to have a tougher time not shifting to being a more consultant parent away from trying to fix it for her? What what's inside of both of you? Because it's a challenge for both of you to lean on that. Think about your own childhood.
yeah, there was none of that when I was a kid. It was this is the way you will behave or you will be punished.
Yep. Yep. So that's
I
what you,
think about that. It's like my parents would never have allowed me to do the things that she gets away with. But then, it's like, well, I don't see why I don't do the same thing. But then I think because that screwed me up and I don't want to do that to her.
yes, there you go. So if you don't solve it for her, she will have more unhappiness than you want her to have.
Yeah, exactly. I want
Yeah,
to make things easier for her
of
and
course.
learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to make them. But then
Yeah,
at some point she's not learning.
yeah,
No.
She
yeah,
needs to do that.
In fact, she learns almost nothing from being told, even though I
yep,
keep trying to be like, I've learned this, or when I was a kid, I
yeah,
would do that,
yeah,
or I
yep.
think you should do this. Like, she never listens to any of it ever.
No, no, she doesn't. No. And you just get frustrated with it. But
Mhm.
I think we always have to, and I can tell you when I was a young parent, I was so codependent, which meant I didn't want anybody to be unhappy around me because my mom was depressed, right? So I worked overtime, make everybody happy at my expense, right?
Mhm.
My dad was a drill sergeant, my mom was a helicopter. I didn't have a consultant parent, right? So it really starts with yourself is this moment is I open my mouth, what? To soothe my own fear of how she will experience having to do this on her own. Think about you, Stephanie. You were left on your own way too much, right?
Which is why I try to be there like all the time and
That's
tell her
right.
what to do. But
Yeah. I mean, usually we go to the opposite of where we experience as a kid. We don't want that feeling, so we don't want our kids to have it. There's something in the middle here for both of you. And ask the question, what's making it hard for me just to let her decide what she's going to do with her boredom? Because once you go, oh, that was that's that's echoes from my past as a kid. Did you have parents that she could go, I don't want to know what to do, but dad, would you help me? Or mom, would you help me? Did you have that experience? No.
in
But
my house, if you said you were bored, you were told all the list of chores that you should be doing.
that's right. That's right. So that's the hard part about giving up being a drill sergeant. It's really about us, like letting her struggle. And Love and Logic has a term called the gift of struggle. And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to, I think I sent you about three short stories. Um, they have a little book. It's very little about this little red book that talks, I think it's called The Gift of Struggle. And it makes so much sense. I'll give you a quick example. My daughter got to Portland after I had to really learn not to be a drill sergeant and helicopter when she was off the deep end. And finally she went to Portland and she would come home and talk about her friends and she'd go, oh my gosh, I got this one friend. Man, her parents should have had some love and logic because she can't think at all. She can't problem solve at all. She's like 10 years older than I, but she acts like she's a teenager still, not and complains on all the time and I just smiled inside thinking she didn't like it when I did it necessarily. I've told you some of the things that to stay out of arguing, because back then I didn't realize that control was like throwing gas on the fire where she's cussing at me and I just take her car keys. There are two cars. We're meeting at the pharmacy there on 39th Street and she uses the F word with me and I don't say anything because I practice. I listen to this stuff over and over and over again. Why? Because I'm built to be a drill sergeant or I'm built to be a helicopter. I'm not built to be a consultant. So I'm listening and I just say nothing and then I say, honey, I need your keys for just a second. Okay, say nothing about the F word. Really, the F word when a kid's using the F word, that's not a time to talk about the F word. Okay. It's silly, but everybody does it. Like you can't talk to me that way. And now we're off to a big argument about why she used the F word and all of that. So I got the keys from her and I said, honey, I'm just going to leave your car here, going to lock it up, and you'll have to find your own way home.
Hmm.
Now she's 17. All right. I'm telling you, if you do this well, you will not have moments like this because your kid will know that she can't treat you like that without some kind of like natural consequence. Or when she's talking,
Ryan,
we're
what's up? Can you go out because we're almost finished?
We're almost finished, and those are the clothes I'm wearing tonight. Please don't step on them. Thank
Please
you.
go out. Sabrina,
No phones. We'll just be a minute.
go out
Just
for
be
a
a
minute,
minute.
please. We'll talk about it afterwards.
We're
Please.
going to be going to the party thing. You won't need a phone.
You gotta do.
No,
I'll be bored.
you'll be with your friends.
I need a phone. Tell me the time.
okay.
They'll have clocks.
It'll be fine. You're not going to be in charge of time.
We'll come get you when it's time to go home.
This free time easier.
Please, can you go out so we can finish?
We need a few more minutes. Thank you.
So I'm gonna give you that moment to do over. She comes in and wants a phone. You say, I know you want the phone, honey. And we're not done yet. But I need the phone. I know you need it. And we're not done yet. And you don't say anything other than that. What you just did could have been turned into a big argument.
Mm.
You have to practice not what and she won't get the first response until you've done it enough. So one of the love and logic things is you say it again, and then you say it again, then you say it again. You don't argue about it. You just say, I know you want it, and we're not done yet. I'll be with you after we're done. And that's kind of, you get softer and softer. And you just look at her with a smile. I can tell you, this is powerful stuff. Because if you don't do it, it's one more bad moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you fighting yourself to try to make her happy. She will not be happy when you make this shift at first because she'll have to go away and feel, and because she has an anxious attachment, she'll feel abandoned. She will. It's okay to feel small bits of abandonment because she'll have to go figure that out. Now she can come back and go, why'd you talk to me that way? And you say to yourself, do you really want to know? Or, I mean, I could tell you because I'm really trying to make this thing better between the two of us. That's the job, is turn the relationship into more positive moments and less negative. And it starts with you guys. That moment could have gone better, right? But you guys are just so naturally trying to convince her that she doesn't need the phone. You can't convince her that. You can't. You
Yeah.
just have to say, of course, you want the phone, right? And if she said, I don't know what she said about whatever, and say, okay, okay, I'll talk to you about that later. We're not done. Can you have a sense that this is really establishing that you guys have needs and she just can't interrupt? Now you can do this ahead of time because you know it might be coming. But we can continue to work on the kind of the screen thing, but I think you just listening to that love and logic stuff, I think it's going to really help you. That saved me. It saved me in my own need to fix and I was so angry at her. One more story, then you can tell me what you want to remember. So I'm driving home and I'm getting ahead of the game with you guys, but it's coming. But it doesn't have to be like this. I'm driving home and she starts getting after me. She's using words that are disrespectful, and we're 9 miles out of town. So we got to be in the same car at least 9 miles till she has her own car. And a lot. I mean, she's not she doesn't have friends that will drop her off 9 miles out of town, right?
Mhm.
So I am listening to this love and logic, and I'm really saying, okay, it's going to happen. And this is in the first, I think, and I can send it to you, where there's teenagers really giving mom a hard time. And she stops the car. Yeah, she stops the car and she's made it so that she calls her friend to come get her. And she just locks the car up and says, you guys can find your own way home. She walks away from the car. Now, Love and Logic says if you do this like strategically, it only takes about one time to do it or two. Okay. One time or two. But it really is hard to do. So I'm thinking about all this and I say, okay. I turn to her and say, honey, I'm okay with you talking to me that way. If you continue that, I feel like I'm your taxi driver. And that's people talk to taxi drivers like that. Okay. But if you want me to be dad, I can be dad. So you have to kind of choose. Taxi drivers, you're going to spend about $1 a mile. Because that's what taxi drivers they charge because it doesn't matter how people treat them. I didn't say too much. I was just wanting her to know that you have to make a decision right now because I'm not saying one more word to you, but you know that I'm a taxi driver from now on and you're going to cough up $5 or $7 because we're still barely out of Missoula. That's it. That was planned. Didn't happen again. If it was starting, I'd say taxi driver or dad right now, honey. Boom. So I'm really good at this because I had foster kids that I could get into a beef over easily because I was built. That's why I said, think about your own need to fix it and to not, and to have her unhappy because that's going to be the turn. You have to walk away from that feeling like, okay, she can be unhappy right now with me, with life, right? Love and Logic, one more thing, taught me that if I can stay in a I didn't use this word, but if I can stay in a regulated way and I don't try to solve her problem, she will feel the pain of it inside of her much more than if I try to solve it and I'm unsuccessful. I'm waiting for her to turn and say, will you help me? But she's never going to ask for my help if I'm pissed at her because I'm trying to keep her from being unhappy. Believe me, she will not reach out. She has to have this place inside of her, like, I'm very lonely right now, trying to figure out life. And you're always, if you can be ready to say, I know it's so hard. she's going to turn to you, and it will take a while, right? Oh, you say that all the time. Okay, you don't want me to say it? I won't. But you stop talking so much and trying to convince her that you're a nice parent and what you're doing is really helpful because she ain't listening. I had to walk away so often saying, Doug, what did you say or not say that caused her to be worse? Well, I just want to, I'd say to myself, I just want to, not have her go through all this herself. And yep, but she has to, or else you're not going to like her. And you're still on that edge, guys, that you don't really like her. You love her, but you're not going to really move to I like her until you put yourself in this position I'm talking about, that regulated, I'm here to help. Thoughts today? What do you want to take with?
Well, trying that approach, because I think it will help a lot.
Would you get through at least the audios that I sent you? If not, you can buy the whole Helicopter Drill Sergeant Consultants for about $15 and get through that, because there's another one you probably need to listen to, and that's
Who's the author of that one?
Love and Logic.
What's that?
Love and Logic.
No, the drill sergeant one.
That's the author is Jim Fay.
Yeah, I got that.
Well, you
Okay.
borrowed it, didn't you?
No, I have the audiobook.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, it's a book, but these are audio tapes that if you listen to them, you'll hear him how he says it to kids. Let me see if I can find. I thought I sent you three.
Yeah, I went out and found the whole book after you sent us some stuff.
Well, it's not a book. It's not a book.
Okay.
It is it is, gosh, I thought I had sent you
Remember
three.
we watched some videos of him too, talking about there was like a kid that had like a problem going to school or something, and
Yep,
Oh, I remember that. There was an office.
yeah. And
yep,
so when I listened to the kid, it was about the music in the car or something like that.
yep. There's a Burger King kid. Let me see. Man, I thought I had sent this to you. Okay, maybe not. I'll send you three audios, which is 3 out of the 10 that are on this DVD.
Okay.
It's called Helicopter Drill Sergeants and Consultants. And listen to those three, and I think it's going to kind of hook you. If not, I can send you a few more. The one DVD, again, these are audios. These are not books. That's why I said I had listened to it again and again. It wasn't an audible book. It was him telling stories about how he responded, or how some parents would respond. That's, to the mom that's getting grief from the teenagers. I mean, there's another story about the kid that won't stay close to parents. This is not your problem, but
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, we have the opposite.
They had a kid that was yeah, I'll send this to you. They had a kid that wouldn't stay close in the grocery store. So this is called a special learning opportunity. And so the parents said, okay, you have to hang with me here. And because I'm not going to watch you, you have to watch me, honey. And so she purposely had a friend come into the grocery store, and she stopped watching where her kid was going, and the kid got lost and very afraid. Now, what you do is you give them that struggle of pain of where's mom, where's mom? And this neighbor is right there. So she said, oh, did you lose your mom? And you have to deliver compassion. You cannot say, hey, I told you to watch me. Okay, that's the opposite of love and logic response. So the neighbor's been trained, oh, honey, yeah, okay, let's go find your mom. That built that memory of losing her mom. You only have to do it once with these kinds of things where a kid is really scared about losing mom. Then you go, oh, honey. And you don't say much. You'd say, oh, that must have been really afraid. You must have been afraid that that I had left the store or whatever it was. That's all you say. And I can tell you, I had to say that over and over again when Anna would have such a I had to be like, I'm sorry that you're having to find your own way home, honey. They get that inside of them. And that kid never took her eyes off of mom next time we went to the grocery store. So that's the helicopter mom on steroids. I'm watching you wherever you go. The drill sergeants, I told you to stick around. How many times do I have to tell you? And the consultant goes, are you going to watch me this time, honey? Because it would really be sad. Real, I'm trained in this because I listened to this guy give these stories. Be really sad if you get lost again, honey. Yeah, you'd be scared again. I hope that doesn't happen. Can you hear the consultant talk? I hope that doesn't happen. I'm telling her that she can't be lost. Your kid is built to do it her way, and love and logic is like custom made, right? But it's really about you not being mad at your kid a lot and not wanting to come home to her a lot.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll send you those 3 audios. If you want me to send a couple more out of that DVD, there's 10 stories that this guy shows you how he does. And I'll send you, I used to go around the state and give like 6-hour presentations on love and logic. So I'll send you a PowerPoint and we can take a look at each one. I can share you each strategy, choices, getting kids to think. Okay. What do you want to take with you? This kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I love the idea of tell Stephanie when you're fried. Scott, if you've had her, you should just be naturally saying, oh, you had her for 4 hours. I'll take her for a bit. Yep. She needs a fresh parent. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you recognize when you're that way though?
It didn't seem like it was that way last night, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do.
You kicked off pretty quick,
Yeah.
So
so you must have been that way.
I think the best thing is that you guys a partner can see it before we can often. And you have to say it in a good way. Like, honey, are you okay? Do you need would you like me to take over? And you could say, no, I'm fine. Okay. That's your choice, but you walk away and say, okay, you got it. But I don't, and later you can say, I didn't think you had it going fine and you made it a mess. I think it's appropriate to say you made it worse. Why not? This is how we learn. Every good coach is able to put the mirror in front of their, guys and say, okay, that's not going to work for the team. Okay.
I
Remember,
think I figured that out without a mirror.
yeah, but
Time
sometimes,
anyway.
Yeah.
but I think it's appropriate for you to say, Scott, say, I don't think I did that very well. How would you do it? Because I'm not always here to say what, or you can say, what would Doug say? And you can bring it to here. And this is what I did for years with teachers. Like, okay, we're going to be right here again. Let's practice. And I think I sent with you that little tiny book. I think that's an appropriate thing to fill out.
I don't even. I I looked at it and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So I haven't even
So show it to
tried.
Scott. Show it to Scott. It is
Okay.
a 5-minute reflection on I blew it with this kid. I blew it, and this is kind of what happened. And then you can go, I didn't handle that well. The more you do that, the powerful you are, right? You don't have to say you didn't handle it well, but I can tell you most kids, if they've heard you say I didn't handle it that well, they're going to turn around. Like I said with Anna, when I said you could do better and she didn't talk to me for 2 months with her boyfriend. And I finally said, I didn't do well with tears in my voice. I didn't do well. I should never have said that to you. I just wanted you to have somebody that loves you as much as I. And I'm choking up when I'm doing because I'm really trying to tell her I'm a good guy still. What did she say? In a heartbeat, she said, well, I know, Dad. I've kind of picked some losers in the past, haven't I? I didn't say it. I didn't say you sure have. Your kid will turn around if you say, if you know you've done poorly, tell her, I didn't do that well. I'm going to work on it. And if you're really gutsy, say, I'd like some advice. Tell me how to do it better. Your kid is built for this. She can tell you. I watched her say, Mom, you're talking too much in play. That it if you want to get better with her, if she's saying in a reasonable way something you need to think about, say, thanks for telling me that. I didn't realize that. Right? It's really hard because you didn't get a chance to do it, but your kids should get a chance to do it with you. Wouldn't you have loved to tell your parents how to do it better before you?
Yeah.
And now you can fault them for not doing it better, but your kid gets a chance to tell you how to do it better. How wonderful is that? Because that's all the control you have is the control you give up to her. Believe me, because she could take it all, and you're not going to like her when she does. All right, I'll let you go. I'll send those things to you right now. And I won't see you next week, and then I'll see you the following week. And you can decide if you want to do another Zoom. And we can listen to some helicopter tapes over during the session. Or I can walk through the PowerPoint.
We might have lots to talk about after her being off school all next week.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I got to thinking that we should have probably thought about what you do to help yourself with being off of school. Yeah.
We'll figure something out. We shouldn't just go into it like we usually do. Nothing,
No.
no preparation whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, you know the bad moments, and the screen is one of the big ones, right?
Yeah.
All right. Take care. Hang in there. She's a
Have a
lucky
good trip.
girl.
Thanks. Yeah,
Lucky girl to have you.
fun.
Take care.